That'll probably take all period. So we have some trig problems here. Switch this over. The first thing you need to do with trig problems is look to see what mode you need to be in your calculator. We're going to leave them exact and approximate. Do you notice how there's a degree symbol here? So that indicates that I need to be in degrees in my calculator. So before you start any trig problems with triangles here, you always want to check the mode on your calculator. You don't need to check the mode for any other types of problems. Someone on Friday asked me if they needed to be in radians for their histogram. That doesn't have anything to do with anything like that, just the triangle problems. So right here, you want to see degrees. If you have an older calculator, you can't see that. Hit the mode button. The mode button is right next to the blue one, and make sure that degrees is highlighted. If it's not, scroll 2 degrees and hit enter. And then second mode will get you back out to the original screen. Okay. Next, we need to decide if we have SOCA or TOA. And so I marked the 72 here. And I noticed the 5.8 is the hypotenuse, correct, everybody? So I'm going to put a little h there. And the x is right next to the 72 degrees, so that's adjacent. Adjacent and hypotenuse is cosine. SOHCAHTOA not only helps you choose, but it also helps you set up your equation. Cosine 72 degrees equals adjacent over hypotenuse times 5.8 times 5.8, 5.8 times cosine 72 degrees equals x. That is your exact. And then we go over here, 5.8 times cosine 72, 1.79. It says round to nearest tenth, 1.8. 1.8 equals x. And there is your approximate. If 1.8 feels like a little bit of a weird answer to you, just note that this is 5.8 long, so that being 1.8 long makes sense. Okay, scroll down to the next one. You have your angle theta here. 15, opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse. Hypotenuse, beautiful. 10, opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse. Adjacent. Which part of SOHCAHTOA is adjacent and hypotenuse? Cosine, C-A-H, CA. Cosine theta equals adjacent over hypotenuse. And theta equals cosine inverse. Thank you, honey. That is your exact form. You can't go any further than that without a calculator. But with a calculator, you like my box, isn't it? Just the edges are so very straight. Cosine inverse 10 divided by 15. Theta equals 48.2 degrees. Okay, quick warning, your warm-up should be done, like completed all the way. All of them on the first two pages plus the domain and range page. I'm going to be stamping these while you're doing your team test tomorrow. So this is your 24-hour warning to make sure that all of your warm-ups are filled in, because I do stamp those, I do check them, those are an assignment. Everybody good? Okay. All right, next. Hold on. Okay, next. I want to read this together. Let me zoom it in greatly. Okay. Everybody, read along with me. Read along. Your first test is on Friday, September 6th. That would be 4 days from now. For your test, you can use the front and back of a 3x5-inch note card and a calculator. Your note cards that are provided for you in the middle of the table. You should take one of those. Your note card must be handwritten by you and will be collected with your test. So any questions about that? Front and back are okay, calculator is okay. Everybody good? Okay. Now, these are the topics. There's 6 questions, one of each of these. It's not long. And these parentheses after are how many points it is worth. What you'll notice through our test, once we do a few of them, you'll get the pattern of it. The first couple are multiple choice. These are the newest things that we've done and worth the least amount, just in case. Usually on the next test, these two will go to be worth more, and then on the next test after that, they would be worth the most. So the topics recycling. Describing features of histogram stocks, we're going to practice that again today. This is going to be a multiple choice question. It will not require you to type all the numbers in the calculator. You do not need to know the calculator strokes. Everything that you need will be given to you on the test. Do not waste your note card on writing the calculator keystrokes to find things for the histogram, okay? You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. Okay, don't put that on your note card. Don't waste valuable space on that. This is going to be a multiple choice question where you have a picture and you're just going to say something from the picture and that's it. Identifying and graphing features of a rational function. You guys know that. Vertical asymptote, horizontal asymptote, swoopy. State whether or not something is a function and finding domain and range. Notice this has got to the 3-point section, which means that it's a free response, but it's not like log. And so you're gonna have a graph, you're gonna say it's a function, find the domain, find the range. You can see where the 3 points go there. Okay. Solving a system of quadratic equations. That's when we did the equal values method, get it all to one side, factor, 2 answers, plug back in. There's one of them on the notes today. Solving a quadratic equation using quadratic formula. I will tell you this is worst case scenario. Meaning, you have to simplify the square root with a tree, there's an I involved, and you have to reduce. This is math too, though, people. So just, I love you, but no sympathy there. And evaluating using forward, backward, and stacked function machines. If you've forgotten what that is, it's actually what I'm going to start with right now in your notes. So if you guys could find the review notes in your packet. What? Of course, but you don't need to. You were supposed to be doing the review assignment. That was the homework. Review notes is in class, but it is okay. All right. So okay, I'm making these little notes on here for you. We're going to do these problems together, but I'm making these little notes for you so that you can tell for your note card, if you want to put these on your note card, what type is forward, what type is backward, and what type is stacked. And if you worked on your review assignment over the weekend, you probably might have seen this one and gotten stuck on the notation. This is supposed to be a stacked function machine, which I'll tell you about in a second. Okay. Forward function machine. All right, so that means we plug in -7. So -7 squared minus 3 times -7, which is positive 49 plus 21, which is not 60, it's 70. I can add in the morning without all my coffees. Are you clear on the forward function machine? That is an easy one. Number 2 is a spicy one. Number 2 says you're not going to just plug in a number, you're going to plug in 2 plus x. So I'm going to take everywhere there's an x right here, and I'm going to put 2 plus x in its spot. What that means is I'm not going to get a nice answer, which is going to be unsatisfying. So I took x, this little baby x, and I replaced it with 2 plus x in the parentheses. Okay, the first thing I need to do is multiply that 2 plus x out. Is everybody okay with the box? Do you understand why I did the box? Yeah, it's a binomial squared, two things squared. So that's, I think the hard part about this problem is you actually have to have the thought process that you need to do that. And you have to do it first before the -2 gets involved. So I took my answer from the box and replaced that. Now I'm going to distribute. And then combine like terms. Done. And that one's gross. We don't like it because we don't get a nice number like 70. We get an expression like -3 minus 8x minus 2x squared. Gross. And you're saying to yourself, Mrs. Talbot, do I need to factor that or anything? No, not on these. You just leave it. Okay, so forward function machine, take whatever is in the parentheses, plug it in for the letter. Backward function machine. What you need to do for a backward function machine is notice that these f of x's are the same thing. So I'm going to take -3 and put it right here. So I'm going to take -3 and put it right there. And I have -3 equals 4x plus 5. So it's not plugging in, it's equaling it. Do you see the difference? So before I move on, any questions about number 1, 2, or 3? You good? Okay. Now let's work on the stacked one. And you probably, if you worked on your review assignment, didn't even recognize this type of problem as a stacked function machine. Let's talk about what this is saying. This is saying do g of -9 first. So I'm going to actually just write g of -9 first. And that says find g and plug in -9. So I have -9 squared minus 1, which is 81 minus 1, which is 80. Okay, are you with me so far? Okay, now it says take that 80 and plug it into F. So you do the inside one first, then the outside one. Next two problems will not be on your test. These are Math 2 review problems that we reviewed on your scavenger hunt, the big scavenger hunt that we did. These, you can, if you want to, if I were you and I was taking note of what Mrs. Talbot is saying, I would just indicate not to bother with these on my note card because I don't want to waste valuable time or space on my note card for these, but they're important. So H minus G. So you just do H minus G. Remember that one that was on the scavenger hunt? It was like over here. It's like 17x squared, blah, and then minus 13x squared, blah, stuff. Okay, so you just do combine like terms. So n minus 3n is negative 2n. And negative 3 minus 5 is negative 8. And that problem is done. Don't overthink it. You're just subtracting them. Okay, and then on this guy, you're multiplying them. So you're going to glue them together and do a box. Hopefully your box is better than my box. Any questions about 4, 5, and 6 before I move on to the square root graph? You guys all okay? All right. So moving on to the square root graph. Identify the domain and range, then sketch the graph. I'm actually going to do this backwards. I'm going to sketch the graph, and then I'm going to find the domain and range. This one is a square root graph, which we know will only work at certain times because we can't have negatives under the square root and graph those. So I'm gonna use the graphing calculator to make my table for this one. So if you could make sure that you know how to do this. Remember, you get to use the calculator for this, so we're gonna use it. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is go to y equals. And you want to make sure your plots are off. If you've been doing stats, you might have plots on. Make sure all of your plots are off. And then you're going to enter this in. Okay, so I have -1 plus square root. Okay, how do we do the square root? It's second x squared. X squared is right here. And then x is right next to the green button, x plus 3. And make sure that you hit the negative and not the minus in front of the 1. Anybody need assistance? Okay, now let's go to the table. Do you guys know how to go to the table? Second graph. And you'll see a bunch of errors, and that should not be surprising because it's a square root graph. So don't freak out about that. That's okay. And you're going to scroll until you can see some points that don't have errors in them. And we're just going to do 5 points here. -3, -1, -2, 0, -1, 0.4, 0, 0.7, 1, 1. And then once you're done writing your table down, you're going to hit the graph button so that when we graph the coordinates, we can make sure that it looks accurate, except for that mine's all goofed up. Anyone else's window all goofed up? Anybody remember how to put it back? Zoom 6. Zoom 6 will get you back. Okay, so this is what I should have after I graph these. So -3, -1, -2, 0, -1.4, 0.7, 1, 1. And then you look at the picture. Okay. Yes, honey. Zoom 6. You mean the table? Oh, crap. I thought you meant the graph. Sorry. Okay. So what you want to do is, you see where it says window here? Go second window. And you want to start it at anything, but make sure that this is your change in your table is going by ones. Yeah. You probably have a plot on. Did you check if see if your plots were on? Like these things at the top need to be not highlighted. Yeah, okay, so now try it. So go up to it, scroll to it, hit enter to turn it off. And then hit graph. Vivian, did you get it, honey? Okay. All right, now we're gonna do domain and range. Domain is X. Range is Y. I'm going to mark these on the X and Y axis, just like I did on our warm-ups. Domain is this. Range is this. Okay, so domain is x is greater than or equal to -3. You can also use the table to help you. It looks like everything greater than or equal to -3. And then the range is y is greater than or equal to -1. By the way, real quick before we move on, is this a function? Yeah, and how can you tell? Vertical line test. Yeah, okay, just checking. I didn't put that in the review notes because, you know, I don't know that anybody missed that one on the quiz. Like literally, I don't know that anyone did. Okay, moving to number 8. Yes, honey. Did you? Do you know, was it? Oh, I remember because you were looking at it, sideways. We discussed this, you and I. Alrighty, rational function. If you don't know that this is called a rational function, you probably want to write rational function up here because I like to match these up with the test topics, right? So if this does not immediately jump out at you saying the word rational function, you should do that. Okay, first, x minus 4 equals 0. Plus 4 plus 4, x equals 4. Vertical asymptote, x equals 4. Okay, now I was very picky on the quiz for this. If you did not write x equals 4 and just put 4, I marked it wrong. Be mad if you like, but my standards are high. So 4. Okay, horizontal asymptote in this case is -1 because there's a -1 on the end here. We do not switch the sign for that. We just leave it -1. Domain is all reals except x is not 4. The range is all reals except y is not -1. And then sketch the graph because the fraction itself is positive. We're just going to sketch this in to the top right and bottom left. Now on the test, you have a graphing calculator. If you want to make a table and sketch it more accurately, you can, but it is not required. And as a matter of fact, I wouldn't attempt it. I mean, you could, but everybody forgets with the graphing calculator that you have to put parentheses around the x minus 4 and your y equals. And if you don't do that right, it's not going to match up with the asymptotes and then you're going to get all confused. So I wouldn't use a graphing calculator for this problem. I would just do that. That's all you have to do. You don't have to make an accurate table for this. Any questions about this one, the rational function? Yes, dear.
I forgot when the
It would have to have a negative in front of this fraction. If there was a negative in front of this fraction, you would have made the swoop here and here. But we haven't done one of those yet. We're definitely going to do them in chapter 2. Anything else about rational functions? So we've covered, what, 3 of the topics so far? Okay, now we're moving on to the histogram. This is going to take us a hot minute, so get settled in. We are going to do the whole thing here, but remember what I said. This is not, there's not going to be a thing for you to type in the calculator and do the calculator instructions on your test. The graph will be given to you, and then you're just going to answer the question about the graph. It's 1,000 times easier than this because it's brand new, and we don't want you to have to do that yet. Okay. However, do you need to set this up? So it says start your histogram at 0 with a bin width of 1. And I'm a really big nerd, guys. You must know this. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mark every half centimeter so that I have equal increments. Does yours need to be as perfect as mine? No, but I'm just a nerd. If I were you, I would devote a little bit of my note card to the socks piece though. You will be asked to identify the shape and things like that. So you might want to sketch little pictures of the shape if you need those. You'll be asked to say something looks like a possible outlier because of the way the graph is. So it'd have to be something off the graph really far. All the rest of the statistics will be given to you. So again, you won't need to type it all in the calculator, but I would draw the shapes if you need them. Okay, so do you guys know what numbers go into the first bin? 0 to what? But not exactly to 1, right? So it's 0 to 0.9 repeating. How many numbers are between 0 and 0.9 repeating? 1, Alaska, right? Okay, how many numbers are between 1 and 1.9 repeating? None. 2 and 2.9 repeating? None. 3 and 3.9 repeating? None. Oh goodness, does that mean that 0 is probably an outlier then?
Yeah.
Okay, 4 to 4.9 repeating? 1, 2, 3. 5 to 5.9 repeating? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 to 6.9 repeating? 5 again? You guys 5 again? Anyone check me? 1, 2, 3, 4. I can't count. That's fine. It's what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. All the second guessing myself. Okay. And then 1. This is a rough shape. What do you want to say for the shape? What is your, I think I would accept 2 answers for this shape. Yeah. So I would accept roughly symmetric, but I don't know that that's the best answer. Yes. Left skew. I think it's left. Okay, now, if you can't see the shape, I would accept both of these for full credit. But if you can't see the shape, hold on a second, because the box plot really, really helps. Okay, so outlier, possible. Outlier at 0. Why did you say possible, Mrs. Talbot? It's clearly far away. Yeah, but we didn't do the math because we're not in AP stats, so we don't really know. All right, now we're going to do the calculator part. Hit the stat button, enter. Okay, if you have stuff in there like I do, scroll up to the top, clear, enter. Okay, so there should be 15 numbers that go in. Do you remember what to do? stat. Nope. Stat, then what? Calc. Then enter. Make sure this is L1. Enter, enter, enter. First of all, did somebody else get checksum 79.075? Anyone? Yeah, okay. What?
On the range.
Oh, cripes. Was I doing times in my head? I don't know. Okay. What is this? 1.5? What is this? What is this? No, 1.4. No. 1. Why can't I subtract? Is it 1.4? Okay. All right, last thing, I gotta do the box plot. So 0, 4.75, 5.6. Oh, geez. Is it easier to see the left skew now? You see the tail? Remember, take the word skew, replace it with tail. Which side is the tail on? The left. Except for Mrs. Talbot, why is your line for your box plot so wiggly? I don't know. Any questions from this problem where I got any of those things? Any of that stuff and things and stuff and things? You know where all these numbers came from here? Yes. Did I say, what did I say? What did I say already? You're going to be given all the stats in the graph. You just have to answer a question about it. You do not have to do that calculator business. Don't waste the time or space on your note card for this spots. Okay, we need to move on, people. I have 12 minutes to do a heinous quad formula and a very bad factor, except for that I factored it before class because I'm smart like that. And the system. Hell. All right. Factor completely. This is a heinous diamond. It's really bad. But luckily for you, I figured it out before class. And then I kind of felt stupid, to be honest. But the first thing I did was I figured out that there's a GCF of 6 on all of these. And I just sat on my calculator, literally divided them all by stuff until I found the biggest thing that came out of all 3 of them. Like, I didn't know it was 6. I just guessed and checked 6. My options were anything that multiplies into 30. Okay, then And then I spent an embarrassingly large amount of time dividing things by 400 by different stuff to figure out this diamond. And it just ends up being 50 and 8. And I felt really stupid because that's such an even thing to divide by. I don't know why I didn't think of it. Also, it makes sense with the 5 and the 8 here, but whatever. I'm just going to say it was early. Okay, now what is the GCF of those two guys here? 5n. So this has to be n, and this has to be minus 10, and this has to be plus 8. Okay, important question. Should I keep going? Should I do zero product property? No, why not? It says factor and there's no equal 0. Okay, 2 more. Solve with the quadratic formula. This one, we have to get it equal to 0 first. You can move the 6 or you can move this stuff, but my rule is I always like to keep the squared term a positive. So I'm going to move this stuff over here. Here's my question. Do you want me to divide by 3 or do you want to just wing it as it goes? Like if you're taking the test, would you just go A equals B equals C equals and wing it as it goes? You would? Okay, let's just do it. Do you all see that you can divide it all by 3 though? Just checking. If it occurs to you, you have to do it with factoring, but you don't with quad formula. Okay, A equals, this is weird because it's an A, but whatever. Negative B plus or minus square root B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. This one's not negative. Plan for the one on the test to be negative. So you're going to have an I involved. What multiplies to be 360? 36 and 10. And that, do you know that that's actually the best choice? Yes. Okay. And if you are advanced at the simplifying square roots, you should note that the 6s already match. You don't need to break them into 3s and 2s. Just leave them 6s. Circle, cancel. You've got a pair of 6s. That's good. Okay, what comes outside? Beautiful. 6 root 10. 6 comes outside. The 2 and the 5 multiply back together. Go stay inside. And then reduce. Okay. Now, before I finish this one, do not write anything further, please. Don't write anything further. Don't write anything. I am going to write something. Don't write this. Don't write it. This is for a particular student in the class who I really, really like. Does this particular student see what I'm doing? Okay, so what I'm doing there is I'm addressing puzzle 4 from the solving quadratics. They have decimals. So what you have to do is you have to actually put those into the calculator to get the decimals. They give you one of them and you have to figure out the other one.
Okay.
You don't have to do that. I mean, we don't ever do that though. We don't ever do that. But on that puzzle, they wanted you to do it. Okay, one more problem. Oh, am I going to finish it? Okay. I'm going to do my best. Okay, solving system. They both equal y, so they equal each other. Now I'm going to get it equal to 0. Anybody know why I chose this side to undo? Beautiful. Factor like the wind bullseye. Damn, Mrs. Talbot, it's speedy. Okay, while you're cracking up, equal values method. Got it all to one side. Factor 0 product operating 2 answers. Log them separately is the easier of the two original equations. You get the y's and then coordinates.